What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron, and this video is going to be a little bit different. In this video, I'm actually going to be doing a DIY project that I've been planning for quite a while, and that is an enclosure for my 3D printers. You guys have probably seen that I've been doing 3D printing videos a little bit more often recently, and a lot of my LED projects have involved some sort of 3D printing, so I've started to accumulate 3D printers. I've also started selling prints on Etsy, and because of that, I've kind of run out of room for my 3D printers either in my office or on my workbench. So I decided it was time to expand out to the garage. However, since it does get a little chilly in the garage in the winter, I wanted to have an enclosure for my 3D printers so that I can keep as much of the heat in as possible, making more consistent prints. Recently, I've been using these enclosures from UPI, and while I really like them, I wanted to make a huge one that could fit 3 of the largest size 3D printer I have, all in one enclosure. To start with, I needed a really good workbench, and I was looking for one that I could raise and lower as necessary, and I'll show why this matters later on. I reached out to FlexiSpot to see if they had anything that would fit my needs, and they had the perfect workbench. This would be my solid foundation, so while I waited for that to arrive at my house, I had to move on to the frame. In a previous day job I worked in a clean room, and we had a ton of machines that had hoods or enclosures made from polycarbonate or acrylic and aluminum extrusions. I was really fascinated with these aluminum extrusions, which are sometimes called T-slot profiles or struts. What makes them so special is this slot that runs along each length. They make something called a T-slot nut that slides into this slot quite easily, and when a screw is screwed into it, it rotates and the wings swing out and under the edges of the channel, and this locks the nut in place. This effectively means that without drilling any holes in this aluminum profile, you can attach things to it anywhere along its length. They're also super strong, and if you want to cut them, you can actually just cut them with a miter saw. So if you have a miter saw, you're good to go. These aluminum profiles also have a ton of different accessories that you can get with them. So I got a bunch of these. So I had a plan for the base of my enclosure and what I was going to make the frame out of, but I needed to figure out what I wanted to do for the sides and top. I originally wanted this entire enclosure to be made of acrylic so you could see in on all sides, but then I went to the hardware store and looked at the price of acrylic, and it was super expensive. I decided to make the back, sides, and top out of corrugated plastic sheets, which I got from Home Depot. This has moderate stiffness, but I'm not looking for something structural, just something that could be a barrier from the garage temperatures. For the front, I still wanted to use acrylic, and since I planned to have 3 printers in this enclosure, I figured 3 separate pieces could be used for the doors on the front. To prepare the space in the garage, I actually had to remove my RepRack 3D printer filament storage area. Then I painted the wall a dark gray color, and once done, I installed the filament storage again, but a little higher up. I don't think it's actually gonna stay here permanently because reaching over this enclosure to access that is gonna be a pain, so I'll probably end up moving the storage somewhere else. I also picked up a big doormat to lay down right at the base of the wall as a good flooring since my concrete floor is not super pretty. I drew a 3D model of the entire assembly of this thing so I would have an idea of how it would all go together, and I could use that to get accurate dimensions for the different parts I need to cut. With a plan mostly formed in my mind, I started to put it together. This portion of this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. I first assembled the FlexiSpot workbench, which was super easy, just building the frame, putting together the workbench top, and then connecting the two together, and then plugging in power so I could test the motor out. When I was done, I was surprised at how big this workbench is. The reason why I chose to use a motorized workbench as the base for this enclosure is because it's a feature that I wanted to add to this enclosure for my 3D printers. My plan is to build the entire enclosure on this workbench, and then I'm going to put some eyelets connected to the aluminum extrusion frame and connect those via some sort of chain to the ceiling so that when I lower the workbench via the motorized legs, it'll expose the printers somewhat so I can access the back and even slide them out if necessary. We all know with 3D printer enclosures that they really prohibit you from doing proper work on your 3D printer, so the ability to effectively lift the enclosure off of the workbench, exposing the 3D printers, is huge. With a weight limit of 220 pounds, the FlexiSpot E6Q is perfect for this application, And this huge 78 by 32 inch workspace provides an amazing amount of room for my 3D printers. And based on my model, I'll have plenty of room around the printers even, just like I do with my UPI enclosures. Anyway, thanks to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this portion of this video and sending the E6Q for me to try out for this project. And without further ado, let's get back to the build. With the workbench all put together, I put the whole thing on the doormat that I had purchased and laid out my materials. The aluminum profile I bought came in 1000mm lengths, and since the workbench top is actually exactly 2000mm in length, the long pieces of the enclosure will be made by connecting two of these together. For this, I use these connecting bars, which slide right into the T-slot channel and then are held in place by set screws. I put one of these on the two sides of the channels and slotted the two profiles together, providing a nice solid connection. After making the long lengths, I had to make the short lengths for the top and bottom. So this was going to be my first try at cutting these things. It's a lot easier than you think though. Just measuring them and then marking your measurement with a utility blade, just doing a light cut on the surface. And then I brought them over to the miter saw and cut them right on the line, producing a decently clean cut. Once all four of these were cut, it was time to connect them together with the longer pieces to form the bottom part of the frame. For the corners, I used the corner brackets with T-slot nuts and screws and secured each of the corners to form the whole piece. I'm fine with using these brackets even though they block the T-slot on the inside because I'm not putting any material into that slot. This is just the base. However, I had to be careful on the other parts of the frame because I'll be using those slots as a way to capture the plastic corrugated sheets as panels. For the corner post, I used a hidden corner bracket to secure it to the front face, which uses set screws to hold it in place. Then I attached one of those black triangular gusset plates on the side to give it more structural stability, using the T-slot nuts and screws to secure it in place. At first, I left the corner screw out since there wasn't any slot there, so I couldn't have a T-slot nut behind it. But then I realized that with a little bit of pressure, I could screw the screw right into the center hole of the aluminum profile, effectively self-tapping that hole. For the back corner posts, I didn't use the hidden corner brackets since they would get into the way of the material that I wanted to slide in those slots. So I skipped those and instead used two triangular corner gusset plates to hold the whole corner together. With the 4 corner posts done, I now had to install the front and back posts. Now the front post I decided to put there to provide a space for the doors that I'll be installing later on, but I decided to put back posts at the same point because it was a good spacing for structural members on the back. For the front ones, I had already inserted a hidden corner bracket into the T-slot channel, so I just had to measure for the appropriate opening width for each of the doors and then secure the hidden bracket with the set screws. Then I installed these T-gusset plates on the inside of the door, and these provide really good structural stability, securing the posts to the bottom of the frame, but they also act as door stops, so the doors won't be able to swing too far in. For the back posts, I once again couldn't use that hidden corner bracket because I need those slots for the material to slide into. So for each of the posts, I used the T-shaped gusset plates to secure those firmly to the base of the frame. Once again, measuring that opening to make sure the post was the same distance away from the edge as the front post was. At this point, I needed to install the material for the back and sides of the enclosure, and I used corrugated plastic sheeting as I mentioned. So what I did was measure the size I needed, adding a little extra to provide for the channel that they were going to slide into, and then I laid it out on my basement floor, used a T-square to draw out the shape of the panel, and then cut them using a utility knife. Then I slid each one into the slots, and they slid in really nicely. After that, I could then install the top part, which I've built pretty much in the same way as the base of the frame, except for a couple things. First, I didn't use inside corner brackets for the corners of the top, because again, I need those slots for putting material in for the top of the enclosure. And second, those connecting bars for the long piece of this part of the frame, I couldn't leave those connecting bars in the slot either on the side or on the bottom because both of those channels would need to have material in them, so I actually had to put them on the top and on the back side. I also added some more short crossbars along the top using T-gusset plates, and to secure the top, I used corner gusset plates for each corner and T-gusset plates on the back and top sides. But to secure the front post to the top, I had to use inside corner brackets to secure each vertical post to the top crossbars. This is because I didn't want to block the doorways in any way. I had also cut the corrugated plastic for these top panels, so all I had to do was pop those in before I secured the crossbars. So at this point, I have the frame fully built and I have barrier material, or those plastic panels, on 3 sides of the enclosure. I really wanted to install the doors in this video as well, but that material is not here by the time it's time to finish this video off, so that's gonna have to wait until part 2. But in the meantime, I want to show you how I'll use this FlexiSpot workbench. When I was building the top part of the frame, I slipped 2 eyelets into each T-slot on the 2 sides of the frame, and then held them in place with some T-slot nuts and screws because they're meant to slide around. Then I extend the FlexiSpot desk all the way up as high as it goes, hook a chain to the eyelet and then to a nail in the rafters of my garage ceiling. And then when I lower the FlexiSpot down as low as it'll go, you can see that the enclosure is easily lifted up off the workbench, and that'll give me plenty of room to access my 3D printers. Now I'm thinking of creating some posts in the workbench somehow, kind of as guides or pilots, so that this 3D printer enclosure sets down the exact same way it came off every time. I can effectively lift the 3D printer enclosure a full 20 inches off of the workbench, and while it doesn't clear the top of the printer, it's still quite a ways and enough to do any kind of maintenance I want on the printer. And if I want, I can easily lift the enclosure the rest of the way off. I'm telling you guys, you're gonna want to see part 2 because I have a ton of plans for this 3D printer enclosure. I want to install the doors in part 2 like I mentioned before, but I also want to add a temperature and humidity sensor with display. I want to add lighting. I want to add a carbon filter, cameras of course, and most importantly, I want to make the whole thing smart and connect it to Home Assistant because you know that's what we do in this community. If you guys have suggestions for something that I should add to this design, or if there's something glaring that I missed, please let me know in the comments. And if you guys are channel members, I'm going to give you access to all the 3D files so you can build your own if you want. Also, don't forget that I have links to a lot of the stuff that I purchased for this in the description, and if you use those links, I get a little commission and no extra cost to you. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this one, so don't forget to hit the like button, and check to see if you're subscribed because my channel was recently hacked, and you may have unsubscribed accidentally. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.